welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. This morning I have Alexa with me. Alexa does write, publish, and sell.co. Alexa's the founder of that. She's not only a published author, she helps people share their stories, and we're going to talk a little bit about the true story behind anxiety and depression, because she wants to tie it into disabilities, which, as you know, this show is all about solo entrepreneurship and with a mix of disabilities. So without further ado, I'm going to let Alexa take it away.
Well, hi. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and I think this was a really important show that you have. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So my writing journey and publishing journey actually began after I lost one of my identical twin infant daughters, and I started writing basically to have a place to share the emotions and the feelings that I was going through, and to be able to cope with that, and to share with other people what I was going through, and to help other people as well. And I wound up getting together with about 30 other parents who had suffered the loss of a baby or child, and we published a book together called Sunshine After the Storm, a survival guide for the grieving mother. And it was through that process that I really found that I have a love of publishing and a love of getting people's stories out there, and kind of developed my business of author coaching and publishing books beyond that. Obviously, the loss of my daughter really impacted me, but I had struggled with anxiety and depression for a very long time, and I only finally was able to admit that and to ask for help and to get on medication when I felt that I had a legitimate reason, which was suffering the loss of a child, which I think is a really sad statement about mental health in our country today, that we feel like we have to have something as significant as someone passing away or a significant event in our life to ask for help to deal with anxiety and depression. So that's also something that I blog about and let people know that they can ask for help, and it's okay to be medicated, and it's okay to struggle through these things and to ask for help.
And yes, I just let you guys know I have, believe it or not, picked up another podcast fully focused on mental health, even though I don't have mental health issues. The host that I'm doing it with, yes, I'm the co-host, has severe bipolar. And so we're trying to break the stigma as well. But getting back to Alexa's story just for a minute, how did that first blog post make you feel when you finally admitted that, look, this is the demon I'm facing?
Well, it's kind of interesting because people accept you blogging about sadness and grief and depression when you have a major event like that. So for me, those things were easy to write about, because I knew that no one was going to question my depression and even my anxiety at that point. But when I finally wrote a piece about an incident that happened to me in college, where I just found myself one day in so much pain and so much depression. I mean, I remember just laying on the kitchen floor and just crying and feeling like I could not do anything. So to be able to share that was really cathartic, and I know that I'm helping other people when I am able to be that vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, you are helping other people get their stories out. So why did you start your publishing company?
Well, so when we published the first book, the entire goal of that was just to help provide encouragement and resources for mothers and parents who had lost babies. And I really didn't, at that point in time, see myself doing a full-on publishing endeavor. But when I went through the process, I found out that I could, in fact, establish my own imprint, and I could create my own little micro-publishing company. And I named it Catbiggie Press. That's Katbiggie Press. And I did that in honor of my daughter. Her name was Catherine. And, yeah, I just at the time I was also blogging about parenting stuff, because even though I lost my daughter, I still had her identical twin sister, who spent 12 weeks in the NICU and had numerous health concerns and issues and therapies and all kinds of stuff. And then I also had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I was trying to survive this awful time in my life and figure out how to be a mom to these 3 tiny little humans. So I was also blogging about parenting, and a fellow blogger and I decided that we wanted to write a book for moms, to encourage moms, because we feel like there's so much competition, and even like the whole, mommy wars and all that.
Yeah, so I definitely agree.
Yeah, so we wanted to write a book for that. So we put together a book called Lose the Cape, Realities from the Busy Modern Mom and Strategies to Survive. And I published that for us. And I was like, I love doing this. This is great. I want to help other people do this as well. So I helped another woman who was putting together a book for grieving parents and published her book. And it's just kind of grown from there as I've realized that this is something that I could do professionally, and a skill that people really need, because there's so much to navigating the publishing process. And it's grown from there.
It's going from, I don't know if you know this, Alexa, but I have 6 published books of my own, 2 international bestsellers, anthologies, all based around my story of having cerebral palsy, and I'm working on my 7th book as we speak. And so when you say the self-publishing industry is the hardest industry to navigate, I definitely agree with you.
There's a lot to do. Well, that's really interesting. I actually, total side note here, I would like to get you in touch with one of my current clients, because she is writing a book for people to understand. She also has cerebral palsy, and she's writing a book called More Sane Than Different, I believe the title is, about trying to understand how to interact with people with disabilities, and that we have more things in common than we do that are different. And it's going to be a fantastic book. I can't wait for her to get it out, but I think you'd be a great resource for her.
I would love that. I would love that. So you can email me offline, and we'll get that all organized. And I would love that. And I would love to interview all your clients, because I think the self-publishing industry it's rewarding but challenging at the same time.
Absolutely.
And Alexa, you will agree with me about this statement, because we have to do own marketing on these books.
Mhm. And that's the part that people don't realize, like how immense that part is. And that's something I work with my clients on. Basically, from the moment they hire me, they're like, "Shouldn't I finish writing my book first?" And I'm like, "No, no, because you can't make up time."
And that leads me to my next question. What would be the best piece of advice from you in the self-publishing industry for the person that wants to write a book or what's the best piece of marketing advice that you've found?
So the best piece of overall advice I can say is for them to really ask themselves why they are writing a book and what their end goal is, because that's going to change the way that they approach how they go about doing it. And if they're not really, it can be, I think let me back up a little bit. I think people assume that since they're self-publishing, they can do it inexpensively. There's still a lot of costs that come along with publishing a book and doing it well. And you have to really understand what your end goal is and what you're trying to achieve, because if you just say, oh, I don't want to pay somebody to do this or do that, and then your book flops, So, yeah, it's really important to understand the end goal. In terms of marketing, the best thing I can say is to start early. Start as soon as you come up with an idea. I tell my clients to come up with a working title, create a working temporary cover that they can start promoting it with, start growing their email list, start doing things to build hype around their book from the moment they know they want to write it, because you cannot recuperate that time, and it takes a good bit of time to grow a solid audience who's going to help you have a great launch.
I definitely agree, and I apologize for the light coughing attack that you guys just heard, because I teach preschool, and this is my 15th New England cold I'm going through. I'm actually making a job pivot in my job, so I'm retiring myself from preschool because the body can only handle so much. But
oh my goodness.
I apologize for the light coughing attack that you guys just heard. But get back to Alexa. Children are germ moms. I love it. I love it. I might have to use that live Alexa. Children are germ moms. I love it. And so, speaking of that, have you ever worked on a children's book?
I have not. I have about 15 ideas in my head and my heart for children's books that I want to write, dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, dealing with grief and loss of a sibling, dealing with big picture things, and travel. I love to travel. I spent several years in Europe between France and Germany, and I took my daughter on a trip to France 2 summers ago, and I really want to write a book about that experience and about her adventures as a little American girl in France. But I have not. I'm a little overwhelmed by that process, which sounds ironic coming from a publisher, but there's so many different things. I mean, you have to find the layouts entirely different, the structure's entirely different. I have to find an illustrator, and it's just like I'm scared. So fear is normal, writers.
It's scary. I have published a children's book. I self-published a children's book. It's called Now Go Learn Try. It's on Amazon as well. If you type in Now Go Learn Try, that's my children's book. But I definitely agree with you, Alexa, that the children's book is a completely different animal than, let's say, biography, because it's just a completely different animal. And me coming from a early childhood educational background, I did it for my kids, but also at the same time, I'm like, one children's book is enough for me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Peace. Okay, my cough is getting in the way of this podcast. Peace, as you can hear. So, I wanted to ask you, Alexa, before I let you turn the mic on me, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of your books, and how can people begin to work with you if they want to publish a book?
Sure. So the easiest way to find me is on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and it's just facebook.com /Alexa Bigwarfe, and that's ALEXA, B as in boy, IGWAR, F as in Frank, E. And if they send me a message through there, we answer really quickly, or they can come to my website, which is writepublishsell.co, and we have a contact form and the ability for them to actually schedule a time to talk with me if they're interested in working with me. And then my books are all on Amazon under my name, Alexa Bigwarfe, or Alexa Haddock Bigwarfe. I may have my Alexa H Bigwarfe maybe. Yeah, the Facebook is probably, that's where I spend the most amount of time. But if you're not a Facebook person, please just hop on over to my website and fill out my contact form. And I'd love to talk to you.
And I would love to work with you on a potential project there, because I just love your spirit and love the stuff you're doing, Alexa. So maybe we can talk offline and get together on one of my many book ideas that I have now. And because I'm so in the self-publishing industry, if someone gave me a traditional contract, I would throw it in the trash can, because even though traditional publishers have their benefits too, we as self-publishers get creative freedom.
Yes.
Yes. Alexa says yes. We get creative freedom, which in the traditional publishing industry, you don't get creative freedom. You might hand them one version of the cover, they will turn it around, hand it back to you, and then will look completely different. So
right, exactly.
That's why I don't necessarily want to be in the traditional publishing field, but if someone gave me the creative freedom in a traditional publishing contract, then I would take it in a heartbeat. But that's the honest truth, you guys, and Alexa agrees with me. But before I let Alexa go on with the day, I'm going to turn the mic on her and have her ask me a couple of questions that she wants to ask me.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really curious about how you started this podcast and how it all came about and what you do outside of that.
I started this podcast because I wrote a book, funny enough. I wrote a book at age 23. I wrote my biography at age 23. I come a win. Disabled women living in a non-disabled world. I talk about the challenges living with cerebral palsy. I also talk about the blessings of my extremely supportive family. And I also talk about two stuff and the roses moments in that book. Well, anyway, 2 weeks after the book came out, it hit number one on Amazon. Not only were my friends, my colleagues, my family buying it, but complete strangers were buying it. And yes, it's still on Amazon, you guys. I haven't taken it down. If you guys want to go pick up a copy along with Alexa's books. But complete strangers were asking me, how do you do this? And so I thought, oh boy, if I get on a podcast or some sort of an interview and explain I have cerebral palsy, people are going to turn me out and not want to listen to it. So I thought, why not bring in lifelong learners that I look up to and infuse my story with their story. And ever since then, it's been a success. I've been doing this podcast in different formats, and started out as a YouTube show. Then one of my fans told me, you can't download the audio of a YouTube show, and people just wanted to listen to me while multitasking. And as of Monday, we've now hit 40,000 downloads of all time. Now I'm trying to get that number up to 700 downloads per episode.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the story behind my podcast.
So, I have a nephew who has cerebral palsy, so I understand a bit about what life is like living with cerebral palsy and the challenges, but I'm curious to hear from you what the most difficult part of your life with cerebral palsy is.
The most difficult part of my life with cerebral palsy, and I don't know how severe your nephew's cerebral palsy is, because cerebral palsy goes case by case. But my cerebral palsy, I have mild to severe hemiplegic cerebral palsy, and even though I'm fairly high functioning, I still have severe cerebral palsy. Like when I walk into a room, you can automatically tell I have cerebral palsy,
Right.
You know what cerebral palsy is. And the most difficult part of my life with cerebral palsy, believe it or not, is a hidden thing that we call tone, where my muscles tense up and don't get loose, and tone is not something fun or easy to deal with. So that is the most difficult part of having cerebral palsy. Now, granted, I don't know how old your nephew is, and I am almost 30 years old, so I've been dealing with tone for almost 30 years, and I managed to deal with it quite nicely. But on a day-to-day basis, I don't know what my cerebral palsy is going to be like. Literally, I am very, very, very lucky that I have mostly good days, mostly phenomenal days, but on the days my CP is taking over my life, on the days my tone is really severe, I'm like, why did I get placed in this body? And then on the days it's really awesome, like today, I'm like, well, I can be inspirational speaker and move on with cerebral palsy.
So yeah, my nephew has had to have several surgeries because of that tightening and the muscle issues, and he's only 5. It's been a tough process to watch, but he's a beautiful little soul and the happiest child I think I've ever met. So
people with cerebral palsy tend to be happy. Considering all the icky stuff we've had to go through. And Alexa, you should probably listen to episode that I did with Robin Rosenberg about tiny superheroes. She sends tapes to kids in hospitals with all different disabilities, including cerebral palsy, and her story is really fascinating.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So I guess
it's really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, my final question to you would be, as a publishing coach, I want to know what you did to get international bestsellers.
I wrote my original book, and then my original book, everyone vomited it up, so that's why it hit number 1. And then how I got international bestseller status is I contributed a chapter to 2 different anthologies, actually 3 different anthologies now that I think about it, and 2 of those books came two of those anthologies became international bestsellers. One is called Social Women in Social Media, written by Colin Hall. If you just type in compiled by Colin Hall and written by Colin Hall, if you just type in Colin Hall, Wynn, that's how she spells Wynn. That's actually her middle name. That those books will pop up on Amazon, you guys, too. And so that's how I got my international bestseller status through anthologies.
Great. Well, that's great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying it. But no, my platform is cerebral palsy, and it's cerebral palsy all the way.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful what you're doing, and I mean, I feel like you are the same type of voice for people with CP as I am for grieving moms and for people with suffering through depression and anxiety. So it's important that we continue.
Well, thank
even
you
though
for
it gets
saying
tough.
that. Thank you for saying that. As I said earlier, the days my CP acts up, well, I can't control it. I'm like, why am I doing this behind the podcasting mic? But the days, it's awesome. I'm like, okay, now I see why I'm doing this. But, yeah. So thank you for saying that. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode talking about one of my favorite things, Home Publishing books. And I am happy to bring Alexa on. As I said, we will have Alexa's information in the show notes, and how you guys get to that show notes is whether you're listening in Stitcher, Google Music, iTunes. You can you can click on the cover artwork of any podcast, and it will automatically flip over and give you clickable links and hyperlinks, so you can click on it from your iPhone or Android devices, and then you can go to Alexa's website. Again, this podcast is sponsored by GoKitter, Kitte, or GoKitter is a desktop app for Twitter. What they do is you compose the tweets, and they put a hashtag with the trending hashtag of that day, and then you guys get to be seen. And this podcast is also sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is a clothing line out of California, and they're giving you guys a 20% off code. And I hope you guys enjoy another fabulous episode with Alexa. Thanks, you guys.
Are we done?